Soldiers stand ready with swords drawn, guarding a carriage as wolves surround them. They shout to protect the princess and warn, "By all means, don't let them through." A man in a suit urgently declares the situation is worsening and suggests a temporary retreat. Suddenly, a figure named Lobelia appears, recognized as an infamous, notorious criminal. The wolves growl menacingly as Lobelia calmly observes the blocked escape route. He questions the situation, realizing their path is completely cut off. Lobelia summons a magical book, which begins to emit a dark aura. His eyes narrow with determination as he prepares to unleash a powerful spell. The soldiers and the man with the monocle watch in shock, realizing the battle is over. Lobelia casts an advanced fire attribute magic called Infernal Circle, extending his hand as flames burst forth, signaling the start of a devastating attack. Flames encircle the carriage as wolves scatter from the inferno. Clearing a path, 3 soldiers watch anxiously, sweat dripping as they realize the fire has broken the blockade. Lobelia turns sharply, demanding to know what they're staring at. A soldier nervously stammers in response. One kneeling soldier asks if Lobelia is connected to the rebels, but Lobelia dismisses the question and offers a glowing vial, claiming it's a secret potion stronger than high-level healing potions. The soldiers exchange worried glances but drink the potion anyway, uncertain if it's safe. Suddenly, the wounded soldier's severed arm regenerates instantly, astonishing everyone. They marvel at the incredible healing power. The princess approaches, thanking the magician for saving them from a dire situation. Lobelia brushes off the gratitude, saying he only acted to pass the time. The princess insists on thanking him properly, but a man named Julius interrupts, urging the princess to listen to him. She looks conflicted as the tension rises. The man with a monocle demands to know the purpose of this, glaring at the magician with crossed arms. The princess stands behind him, shocked and covering her mouth. The man accuses the magician of arrogance, calling him an arrogant magician. Soldiers react with alarm, one pointing a sword at the magician, warning that even if he is their savior, they cannot expose the princess to danger. 2 soldiers whisper in disbelief, questioning if he really is the arrogant magician. The princess urgently orders the man with the monocle to come with her. The magician remains calm, a slight smile on his face. The magician calls out to a young knight nearby, instructing him to head west to avoid the Heroes' Knights Guild, whom he dismisses as pretentious. The knight nervously asks why he is being told this. The magician explains that those knights will only pretend to protect the princess, lacking any real intelligence beyond that. The knight looks confused and uneasy. The magician grabs the knight by the shoulders, commanding him to shut up and listen, warning that ignoring him means the princess is as good as dead. The knight quickly agrees, and the magician orders him to inform a grumpy-looking man nearby. The magician sighs quietly, muttering "arrogant magician" to himself as the knight runs off. The princess sits quietly inside a carriage, gazing out the window as it moves along the road. She asks Julius why everyone feared the man who helped them. Noting he didn't seem very bad, Julius explains that the man is a notorious villain. The princess learns his name. The arrogant magician, Lobelia Crowley. Julius describes Lobelia's dark past, revealing he graduated top of the Magic Academy but used his immense power for personal gain and to harm others. He questions how many lives and homes were destroyed by him. Julius warns the princess that Lobelia truly deserves to be called a demon and insists she must never approach him. He sighs, unable to understand those who study black magic. The princess wonders why Lobelia helped her despite being chased, and how it would have been easier for him to hand her over to the rebels. She reflects that unlike her tyrant father, she sensed no malice from Lobelia. She contemplates that his actions, without seeking compensation, seemed like a way to just pass the time. The princess blushes, overwhelmed by the coolness of Lobelia's actions. Julius suggests they explain the situation to the nearby Heroes' Knights Guild, hoping for their help rather than fleeing without a plan. The knight agrees, relieved it was Lobelia's advice. They prepare to go, with the man who accompanied them confirming the legendary knight order might assist them. The knight recalls how, when Lobelia called out to them, he feared an attack but realized that without Lobelia's intervention, they all would have perished, despite their swords being pointed at him. Lobelia showed genuine concern for their safety. Doubt creeps in as the knight wonders if Lobelia might not be as terrible as the rumors suggest. Lobelia introduces himself as Sito Arima with a nervous smile. Bidding a casual farewell, he reflects on his past life as a 23-year-old part-timer who enjoyed playing video games, never imagining he'd end up inside one. He contemplates that he has been reincarnated as the most wicked villain character in a classic fantasy RPG called Arcadia Fantasy, a popular smartphone social game that consistently tops the store rankings. The story shifts to the game's protagonist, Reinhard, a young man chosen as a hero through a ritual who awakens to the blessing of the brave flame. Reinhard is destined to save the world alongside a fated girl. Despite his ordinary appearance, Reinhard is adored by many women, making him the absolute main character who commands unwavering trust. On the other hand, he was reincarnated as Lobelia Crowley, the most hated villain among the characters in the story. He sits among the 12 strongest in the world, researching forbidden black magic from Lobelia's experimental diary. It seems he had mastered black magic to its fullest extent. He wonders why he ended up as a character like Lobelia and finds it troublesome to speak in a forced tone. He closes the book, recalling that Lobelia dies at the end of the story. Panic rises as he fears that if Lobelia dies, his own life might end too. Determined, he vows to avoid that fate at all costs. Despite this, he admits that Lobelia is his favorite character and hopes for him to have a happy ending rather than a tragic one. Though called a tragic villain by players, Lobelia is actually the most loved character due to his complex past, which has skyrocketed his popularity. The story shifts to the Great Human-Demon War, a conflict between the Demon King's army and the human army. In a border village within the conflict zone, Lobelia was born. He lived happily despite poverty with his sickly father and younger sister, Eru. Lobelia walks slowly, troubled by his failure to find work again today. He clutches a small bag tightly, torn between wanting to stop stealing and the harsh reality that they can't live without money. He worries about what to tell his father, already having used the excuse of working at the store recently, deciding to say he helped out in the fields. Suddenly, he notices something, startled. Despite understanding the cruelty and suffering in the world, Lobelia feels he couldn't abandon the fallen demon. He recalls sharing the little food he had hidden at home with the demon. Touched by the kindness shown to him, Lobelia never imagined humans could be kind to a demon like him and vows never to forget this kindness. He wishes the demon good fortune and feels glad to have met him, truly meaning it at that time. Unknown to Lobelia, the demon army that came with him would devastate his hometown. The village lies in ruins, with men killed and women and children sold as slaves to human merchants. The horror of the destruction and loss weighs heavily on him. Now chained in a cold cage alongside others, Lobelia suffers from a pounding headache and the constant screams echoing in his mind. Racked with guilt, he believes everything is his fault and that someone like him never had a chance to do anything good. The torment of his captivity feels like hell itself. Guards discover a broken shackle and realize a slave has escaped. One yells to replace the old shackles, blaming the negligence. They order a quick pursuit, confident the runaway hasn't gone far. A young boy, battered and exhausted, stumbles and collides with a man in formal attire, who notices him with surprise. The man, wearing glasses and noble clothes, gently questions the boy about the leg iron, recognizing it as a slave's. He expresses pity and calls their meeting fate. Tenderly, he offers to adopt the boy, asking if he would like to become his son. The boy, shocked and hesitant, repeats the word son. A caption reveals the Crowley family, an aristocratic household unable to have children, has taken him in. The boy, now named Lobelia, begins an elite education at the Grand Chariot Magic Academy at age 12, preparing to become the family head. Though his grades are excellent, his trauma manifests in increasing violent outbursts, showing a broken heart that cannot heal from the horrors he endured. After graduation, Lobelia proudly announces to his father that he ranked top of his class. The man acknowledges his achievement but reminds him there is something more important than grades and rankings, hinting at deeper expectations beyond academic success. The man with glasses harshly condemns the young man, declaring that his twisted personality, which harms others without remorse, remains unchanged. He angrily disowns him, stating he is no longer his son. The young man walks away, leaving the ornate room behind. As a caption explains, even the gentle Crowley family could no longer tolerate his repeated problems. The young man, Lobelia, is consumed by rage and despair after being rejected by his beloved father. Memories of his tortured past flash through his mind. Shackled, beaten, and isolated, fueling his anguish and fury. Having fallen so far, Lobelia has embraced dark magic to destroy the world that betrayed him. As he crouches in torment, a voice calls out, introducing himself as Reinhard, the hero, who has come to stop him. Lobelia turns, demanding to know who this challenger is. Against the entire guild of the Heroes' Knights, Lobelia fights alone for 2 days and nights. Despite their overwhelming power and friendship, Reinhard urges Lobelia to reconsider his path, telling him he cannot win alone and offering a chance to turn back. Lobelia kneels, coughing, while Reinhard's words hang in the air, a plea for redemption. He is crushed by an unprecedented humiliation. Isolated as others walk away, bloodied and bitter, he mocks the idea of friendship, vowing to hunt the one who caused his despair to the depths of hell and make him suffer. Lobelia grows stronger, repeatedly challenging Reinhard but never winning. His defeats pile up until he is cursed by the Demon King's executives with a weakening spell. He joins the despised Demon King's army that destroyed his hometown, leading to a final showdown with the hero destined to defeat the demon forces. In a fierce battle, Lobelia loses his life, his body wounded and bleeding as the fight ends. Overcome with grief, he sobs, questioning what else this could be called but a tragedy. After his death, his hidden past is revealed, turning him from a disliked player into a fan favorite. Yet, from Reinhard's perspective, Lobelia remains the absolute evil, while the story's characters refuse to seek the truth behind the villain he became. He reflects on a lonely life marked by betrayal, dying unloved by anyone. Sharing memories with Lobelia reminds him of this harsh truth. Despite this, he resolves that as long as he remains a character, he cannot leave the stage. For Sito Arima, there is only one thing he must do. Determined, he vows to be recognized by every single person in this world. A sign hangs outside a building, marking the start of a new chapter. Inside, a man with light hair and a cloak studies a letter with a serious expression, while two men in the background exchange worried glances. The innkeeper nervously confirms the order, sweat beading on his face as the cloaked man fixes him with a sharp gaze and calmly replies, "Yes." The innkeeper, clearly afraid, urges the man to take his time. The cloaked man reflects on how he wasn't kicked out, but senses the innkeeper's fear. He recalls how, since his reincarnation as the villain, people glare, shrink in fear, or look at him strangely everywhere. Determined, he thinks the only way to escape this treatment is to clear his bad reputation. He remembers an event where the player defeats the Dragon King. The Dragon King Boros, a horned elf with a sinister smile, rules over the Kansas territory, oppressing its people. The man smiles brightly, declaring his plan to free people from the Dragon King's rule. Hoping that defeating Boros will change how people view Lobelia, he enthusiastically announces they will head out tomorrow by carriage, eager to carry out his plan quickly. A man approaches Lobelia with a serious tone, asking if he can speak with her. He accuses her of being the infamous arrogant magician known everywhere and offers a story to share, requesting her cooperation. Lobelia crosses her arms and coldly refuses, but the man insists, pointing somewhere to get her attention. Lobelia notices Claudia, a knight with a strong sense of justice, sitting nearby and sipping tea. Lobelia internally groans, realizing Claudia is one of the characters who hates her the most. She wonders if she has been watched since arriving in town, feeling annoyed. The man suddenly throws a glass of water at Lobelia's face, drenching her. She remains silent, sweat dripping down, while the man smirks and wonders how much money he would get if he caught her here. Two masked men move in to attack Lobelia. Seeing this as a perfect opportunity to take advantage, Lobelia questions if they plan to hand her over to the knights. Claudia notices the commotion and the man pointing toward Lobelia, realizing she has been spotted. He braces himself as a punch comes his way, noting that his current body doesn't feel pain from hits, but being on the receiving end still frustrates him. He counters with wind attribute magic called Shock. Stunning his attacker, he swiftly moves to strike again, catching the opponent off guard. The attacker collapses, defeated instantly, while a woman with a rose emblem watches with a serious expression. The man, sweating nervously, laments that he only wanted a break but ended up causing trouble. Bystanders discuss the sudden fight and wonder who the mysterious fighter was. Walking away through a town street, he thinks about finding another place to eat, knowing overusing magic without rest will make him sick. Suddenly, the woman calls out his name, accusing him of assaulting adventurers and insisting he isn't the type to ignore such actions. She demands to know what he is planning. He explains he just wanted a meal but retaliated when interrupted. Though he doubts she would believe him, he criticizes the hero's knights' training for their fixed beliefs and tendency to jump to conclusions, while she glares at him, unconvinced. She snaps her fingers dismissively, declaring she won't waste time arguing with an opponent. He freezes, heart pounding, relieved she didn't draw her sword but worried he's angered her. She turns and walks away, leaving him to stew over her sharp tongue. The next day, they sit side by side on a carriage moving through a mountainous landscape. Both cross their arms, the silence between them thick and awkward as she stares ahead, and he looks away, uneasy. The carriage driver explains that passengers are either affiliated with or have business with the Dragon King, making their presence unusual. She demands to know why he's on the carriage, and he solemnly reveals their mission: to defeat the Dragon King. She grabs his arm, shouting that defeating the Dragon King is her mission alone and meaningless otherwise. Before he can respond, a man in a hat interrupts, apologizing for the intrusion. The path ahead is blocked by a massive boulder, signaling the end of the carriage's route. The man steps down, explaining that while magic could destroy the rock, the Dragon King's lair lies too close. Using enough magic to break the rocks would reveal his presence. He decides to proceed alone from here, moving forward with determination. Suddenly, the boulder crashes down with a thunderous impact. A woman in armor lands gracefully nearby. Confronting him, she warns him to turn back, asserting this is her hometown and she won't accept his judgment. She accuses him of lying about defeating the Dragon King and claims he intends to join forces with the tyrant by trying to defeat her. He turns away, overwhelmed, admitting he can't handle this confrontation. She calls out to him to hold on as she rushes forward, but he begins to leave. As she leaps toward him, he shouts a sharp warning, calling her a fool, trying to stop her reckless charge. He reaches down and firmly grabs her hand, pulling her up from the ground. She looks surprised and uneasy, her grip tightening on her sword's hilt as she steadies herself. Both land on the cracked earth, facing each other in tense silence. She apologizes quietly, struggling to stay on her feet. He responds with a curt warning to be more careful next time, his expression unreadable. She winces in pain, kneeling as he notices and asks if she sprained her ankle. He suggests making an ointment from herbs he has, noting the approaching darkness means they should prepare to camp. Night falls as he gathers herbs and carefully applies a bandage to her ankle. The moon shines above them while she watches him with a conflicted expression. He remains calm and focused, tending to her injury with gentle hands. The quiet between them is heavy, filled with unspoken thoughts. She stands, surprised by his assurance that the injury will heal by tomorrow. He tells her to rest while he keeps watch. She reflects on how the man she met before seemed devoid of humanity or compassion. Finding this kindness strange, he admits that's simply who he is, and if she were like that, she would have abandoned him long ago. She asks what he plans to do after defeating the Dragon King. He replies it's only to measure his strength and that he has no business with her hometown. She questions if his goal is to surpass Reinhard. He tells her to think what she wants, reflecting. He notes Claudia was meant to be a minor addition, wondering if the plot changed. He recalls the Dragon King arc was originally about teaming up with Dragon Knight Zeke to defeat the king. He asks why she came all this way alone and what she could do. She answers it's to settle the score with her life, refusing to involve the Knight Order in personal matters and saying she doesn't need to explain further. He wonders if there's a story about Claudia not told in the original work. He acknowledges she can't defeat the Dragon King alone since it takes teaming with Zeke to bring him down, so he can't let her go alone. He tells her to set her homeland free herself if she wants. She retorts that he has quite the foul mouth and tells him to hurry up and go to sleep. He agrees, saying it's fine as long as she doesn't get in his way. He quietly thanks her, surprising her as she sleep-talks that a villain with many evil deeds wouldn't be easily thanked. The night sky stretches above as he sits alone, the narration emphasizing that he was truly being thanked. The sound of footsteps thudding on the ground breaks the quiet, while birds screech overhead in the forest canopy. Two figures walk side by side. A man cloaked in dark robes and a woman clad in armor, her expression serious as they move forward. They enter a dense woodland, the man noting aloud that this is Kansas territory. He reflects that if Lobelia is involved, defeating their enemy should be easy. Nearby, ravens circle above a ruined archway, a symbol of the former hero's night stronghold now desolate under the Dragon King Boros's control. Inside a grand hall, a young woman kneels before a throne. Flanked by guards, the armored woman warns Lobelia not to act recklessly, while Lobelia remains defiant, stating she doesn't take orders. The scene shifts to a quiet village, peaceful but overshadowed by the looming threat. As dusk falls, the two protagonists observe a house where activity seems unusually lively. The woman advises waiting until dawn to find an opportunity. Suddenly, a group of guards escorts a frightened girl, who reacts in shock, while a glowing orb pulses in a gloved hand, signaling that something significant is about to unfold. A powerful explosion erupts from a building as a man with horns extends his hand, unleashing the blast. A young girl screams desperately for her parents, tears streaming down her face. Nearby, a woman in armor and a man with light hair crouch behind bushes, watching the chaos unfold with alarm. The armored woman murmurs the name Toto, with concern, prompting the man beside her to ask if they know the girl. Two horned men scold the crying girl, blaming her for trying to escape the sacrifice and saying her father should have quietly handed her over. Flames rage fiercely in the background. The armored woman and the girl share a moment of silent sorrow, tears falling freely. Suddenly, the woman bolts upright and rushes forward, prompting the man to shout after her, reminding her not to act recklessly. She leaps into action, drawing her sword swiftly. The armored woman charges at the two horned men holding the girl captive. Catching them off guard, one of the men shouts in shock, demanding to know who she is and where she came from. as the girl stands between them amidst the burning ruins. The armored woman lunges forward, swinging her sword to strike the two horned men holding the crying girl. The girl, still trembling, looks on with tears streaming down her face. Both women call out each other's names in shock and relief. Claudia and Toto. Claudia apologizes for her delay as she steadies the frightened girl, urging her to move to safety. She insists they must find a secure place to talk. But their moment is interrupted by a man approaching, accusing Claudia of killing his precious subordinates. The man, a horned figure, warns that it would be a problem if the sacrifice escaped and declares he will hold Claudia responsible. Claudia immediately draws her sword and commands Toto to get away quickly. The man advances with a sword, but Claudia blocks his attack fiercely. She vows to abolish corrupt systems like the one that sacrifices innocence. The man smirks, intrigued by her resolve. The horned man taunts the armored woman, noting her energy as they clash fiercely. Their weapons locked in a relentless exchange. She struggles to find an opening, but realizes there are none against his skillful defense. The man mocks her limited skill, confident as a servant of the Dragon King, claiming her attacks won't even scratch him. The woman, desperate, watches her sword fly from her hand, shocked that she's disarmed in such a place. Suddenly, a blond man strikes the horned attacker's face, sending him reeling and bloody. The woman calls out his name, Lobelia, as he begins channeling a mysterious power in his hand. The woman insists this fight is hers, but the blond man coldly tells her to stop wasting time and that he will face the Dragon King alone. He reminds her they've already killed the servants and a serious attack is imminent, urging her to leave quickly despite her frustration. The man with light hair declares they are invading the Dragon King's castle. Standing beside a woman in armor gripping her sword tightly, the imposing castle looms under a dark sky. Inside, a horned figure contemplates with a calm, intrigued expression, murmuring "My," as he observes the situation. The horned ruler acknowledges the death of an important subordinate, smiling as he claims his subordinates are one with him. A kneeling armored man asks if the Dragon King truly understands everything. The ruler's smile deepens, confident in his control. The ruler praises the comfort and abundance of Kansas, noting the castle's pleasantness. He orders the armored man, Shandy, to eliminate the threat by any means necessary. Shandy bows and acknowledges the command with a firm "understood." Shandy descends a staircase, reflecting that he has sent his chosen servants to the village, confident that even the one who defeated his subordinate cannot win against such numbers. Suddenly, he stops, shocked by a gruesome scene of destruction and bloodshed, exclaiming in horror, "What the hell is this?" The man with white hair dismisses the carnage as trivial, turning away from the fallen bodies and a monstrous creature's corpse. The armored woman grips her sword, standing amid the defeated foes. A shocked soldier demands if they defeated them all, calling the situation ridiculous. The white-haired man remains calm and unreadable. While the soldier's expression tightens in fear, the soldier looks toward a balcony, where a figure watches silently. The armored woman asks the man what's wrong, but he denies any issue. Inside a grand room, the soldier urgently addresses the horned ruler, who lounges with a bored expression. The soldier explains the enemies are troublesome and begins to report the situation. The ruler interrupts, saying the soldier should have already handled it. The soldier kneels, confessing he trusted the ruler more than anyone, having been guided as the sole survivor of his clan. The ruler's expression darkens as he warns that betraying that trust is unforgivable. The soldier, trembling and desperate, begs for forgiveness, clenching his fist in apology. The ruler sits imposingly on his throne, surrounded by shadows, as the soldier pleads for mercy. The horned ruler declares his disappointment with a cold expression. Suddenly, the grand doors crack and shatter as the man and the armored woman force their way inside, debris flying around them. The ruler, seated on his throne, acknowledges their arrival with a sly smile, commenting on their lack of manners but welcoming them nonetheless. He gestures expansively, inviting them into his castle as the two stand firm amidst the ruined entrance. The imposing castle looms as two figures stand silently. A determined woman in armor and a serious man cloaked in dark robes. The man steps forward, introducing himself with a confident smile. "My name is Boros. You may call me Dragon King Boros." Boros reveals the recent loss of a valuable subordinate, then offers the man a chance to become his servant, expressing a desire for a strong mage. The man immediately refuses, his gaze cold and unwavering. Boros questions if he intends to seize control of Kansas, then calmly asks why he challenges him to a fight. The man declares his purpose clearly. "I'm here to free Kansas." The woman beside him looks on with a mix of resolve and surprise. Boros's expression shifts to one of mild annoyance as he mutters, "How troublesome." Boros steps forward, summoning a massive sword crackling with dark energy. He warns that it would be better to end the futile struggle, asserting, "I'm a dragon. There's no way it'd be a fair fight." His confident smirk conveys the overwhelming power he wields. Boros smirks confidently, asking if the others agree as he summons a swirling dark energy sphere. The man in the cloak braces himself, preparing to counter the attack alongside the armored woman. The cloaked man swiftly moves, kicking up dust as he dodges. Boros calmly points his sword at him, acknowledging the man's strength with a faint smile. He admits the man is stronger than the average human here. The cloaked man retorts that the weakest always bark the loudest, then silently draws his sword with precise movements. Boros reacts with shock, unable to believe what he sees. Boros turns away, explaining that the sword he wields is one of the strongest in the world and rare. Suddenly, a blade pierces his head, and he remarks with mild regret that he had planned to take his time before finishing the fight. The armored woman shouts in disbelief, questioning why he isn't dying as expected. The armored woman shouts fiercely that she will kill him, swinging her sword at Boros. He effortlessly blocks the strike with his own blade, warning her that she seems eager to die right now. A third figure watches with concern, realizing the situation is dire. The man with white hair casts wind attribute magic, creating a shockwave that deflects the woman's attack. She stumbles backward, clutching her side in pain. The man curses himself for overdoing it, remembering she is lighter than him. Boros notes with interest that the man used wind magic to evade his attack and wonders if he is a famous magician. The man reveals a rare spellbook, which surprises Boros, who comments on its ominous cover despite its rarity among court magicians. Boros questions if the magic is dark magic. The man smiles, admitting surprise that Boros noticed and promises to show him soon as he summons a spear named Jet Black Spear Hell August. Boros grips his sword tightly and swings it in a wide arc, creating a powerful shockwave that deflects multiple incoming spear attacks. The spears shatter against the force, scattering shards across the floor. A cloaked figure approaches cautiously, preparing to counterattack. The cloaked man suddenly stomps the ground, startling Boros, then launches a fierce strike with his sword. Boros calmly blocks the attack, his eyes sharp and focused as the clash sends sparks flying. The man swiftly follows with a barrage of rapid strikes, sending shockwaves rippling across the floor. Boros dodges nimbly, leaping back to avoid the onslaught while maintaining a defensive stance. The man summons dark chains with a spell called Ominous Chain, skillfully ensnaring Boros's arms. Boros reacts with surprise but remains composed as the chains tighten. The man comments on the cunning of his move, and the chains begin to burn with dark energy, threatening to overwhelm Boros. Boros fiercely breaks free from the dark chains binding his arms, his expression sharp and confident as he smirks. A swirling dark energy gathers above him, filling the room with ominous power. The opposing figure watches warily, sensing the overwhelming force building. Boros's eyes narrow as he raises his hand, contemplating the destructive potential unleashed. The man with the white hair channels his energy, shouting the name of his spell, Deadly Thunder. As he thrusts his arm forward, lightning crackles violently, ready to strike with devastating force. The thunderous energy crashes down like a massive pillar of lightning, striking the ground with explosive impact. Boros grimaces, his face marked with cracks and strain from the attack's overwhelming power. The lightning's shockwave shatters the floor beneath Boros, sending debris flying as he struggles to maintain his footing, despite the destruction. His gaze remains fierce and unyielding, eyes burning with determination as the dust and smoke swirl around him. He breathes a sigh of relief, thinking the attack finally hit its mark. He asks if she is still unconscious, urging her to pull herself together. As he kneels beside her, a shadowy figure approaches in the distance, catching his sharp attention. The figure, bloodied and battered, admits surprise at being overwhelmed so much, acknowledging he is the first to do so. His expression softens as he recognizes the man before him, shocked that he is still alive. The man confirms Boros has indeed survived, his gaze steady as the dark energy around Boros intensifies. The ominous aura grows, eyes glowing fiercely as the surrounding walls shudder from the power. Boros spreads his massive wings, declaring he must get serious now. He admits the opponent's strength and reveals his transformation into a second form, towering over the man as the battle escalates. The dragon declares no warrior has summoned him to this form in 500 years, claiming even a mage with a grimoire cannot match the true power of the dragon race. He taunts the man, asking if he knows what to call someone big in size but small in spirit. The man replies coldly that he has no intention of losing to someone like him. The man dismisses the dragon as a small fry. Mocking his arrogance, the dragon retorts that the man still has the luxury to spout nonsense. The man challenges the dragon, wondering how long his bravado will last. The dragon slams his massive claw into the ground, sending shockwaves as the man calmly summons a swirling magical energy in his hand. Labeled, Disaster, the dragon roars fiercely, preparing to strike again. The man contemplates investigating further as the dragon unleashes fiery orbs from his claw. The man notices the dragon seems different from before. Meanwhile, a woman in armor sits quietly, eyes closed, murmuring the names Claudia, Jia, with a somber expression. A young girl reads intently, her eyes focused on the book. A woman reminds her to put the book down when it's time to eat. A man chuckles, teasing if it's the same book again. The girl explains it's her aspiration. She asks if she can go out to play after eating, and the woman agrees, cautioning her to be careful. The girl reflects on her childhood love for the story of a certain female knight. Holding the book close, she reveals her dream to be like the knight who saved countless innocent lives. She recalls honing her sword skills quietly in the countryside, supported wholeheartedly by her parents. Outside, two girls greet the arrival of a third with enthusiasm. The lively girl announces their exploration team is heading to the forest, despite just being scolded by their parents. The girl holding the book warns the energetic one, Monica, that she never learns. Monica laughs it off, confident Claudia will handle any monsters they encounter. The three girls hold hands, joking about their roles as sisters, with Monica claiming to be the oldest. The girl with the book is called Childish by Monica, who playfully scolds the youngest, despite knowing she must leave the village to become a knight. The girl feels reluctant to be apart from her two close friends. The village falls under the control of the Dragon King, marking the start of a nightmare. The heroic knight's castle in the forest becomes the Dragon King's stronghold. All living expenses are seized, and those who resist are killed. The Dragon King demands young village girls as offerings, and the first chosen is Monica. Monica struggles and cries out in pain as she's grabbed, but the girl with short black hair urges the others to remember that Claudia will quickly get rid of their captors because Claudia is strong. The scene ends with a broken wooden sword lying on the ground. Inside a room, a hole dug under the floor serves as an escape route from the Dragon King's underlings. The hole is only big enough for children to pass through. The girl pleads to escape together with her parents, who reassure her that as long as Claudia is alive, they will be safe. The narration reveals that the following year, the narrator was chosen. The girl's parents hand her a sword, telling her to go to the royal capital and become a splendid knight. Tears stream down her face as she embraces them, determined to fulfill her destiny despite the pain of leaving. She recalls admiring the female knight and the holy sword Rai Shalom for as long as she can remember. But now she has left behind friends, family, and her hometown, kneeling alone. She admits to herself that she is nothing but a coward. Struggling to steady herself, she hears a voice asking if she has awakened. Turning, she sees a man standing beside a dragon. She recognizes the name Lobelia and wonders if the magical barrier around her has been maintained all this time. The man reflects that even though he knows he can't win, he must face the Dragon King alone, as running away wouldn't be true atonement. But now, with a strong ally by his side, he is convinced that defeating Boros and bringing peace to the village will be the true atonement. The dragon commends the man for enduring so much and questions if that is enough. It prepares to unleash its final attack, the last rite, as the man braces himself to end the battle. Claudia grips her sword tightly and sprints forward, leaping toward the dragon with fierce determination. The dragon watches calmly as the man beside it holds a glowing orb, then calls out her name in surprise. The dragon's eyes narrow, reacting to the sudden threat. She raises her sword high, shouting for her father, mother, and Monica to lend her their strength as she charges at the dragon's head. The dragon's massive form looms beneath her, ready to face her attack. She slashes fiercely at the dragon's scales, declaring they will defeat it. The dragon roars in pain and fury, snapping its jaws as the glowing orb floats between them, crackling with energy. The man catches Claudia as she collapses, concern etched on his face. She asks about the others, and he tells her to stay quiet and watch, signaling that the battle is far from over. The dragon warns not to try anything insolent as the man notes the beast is finally tiring. The narration reveals the dragon race's feared strength comes from their extraordinary blood's restoration power. The man concludes only an attack surpassing the dragon's healing can defeat Boros and prepares to act decisively, flipping through a spellbook. He chants an incantation, commanding the gate of fear to open and summon imaginary beasts that rampage. The dragon listens as the man declares Boros' rule ends here. The illusionary Hell's Gate bursts open, revealing a swirling mass of eyes behind the dragon. The dragon stands ready, flames flickering from its mouth, as the ominous gate looms large. The dragon reacts with shock as the gate's chains begin to break. It roars wildly, struggling against its bindings as the chains snap, signaling its imminent release. A massive, ornate door slams shut with a resounding bang. Claudia turns to the man beside her, asking where the door leads. He replies calmly that he doesn't know either, leaving the mystery unresolved. The scene shifts to a village where townsfolk whisper anxiously about the recent strange events. They suspect black magic and fear for their lives. Calling the man the arrogant mage, Claudia and the man stand firm, aware they are not welcome here. The man admits that returning to the village was pointless. Claudia clenches her fist in frustration, then lashes out at the fearful villagers, demanding they know their shame. The villagers flinch, shocked by her outburst. Claudia passionately defends the man, insisting he liberated them from tyranny despite not defeating the Dragon King alone. Monica embraces Claudia, pleading for calm and explaining the villagers' fear. The man quietly states he sought no reward or recognition for his deeds. Claudia wipes away tears, struggling with her emotions. The man calls out her name, Lobelia, with concern. She gathers herself and beams a heartfelt thank you, her gratitude shining through despite the pain. The villagers express their deep thanks to the mage, their voices filled with relief and respect. The man acknowledges their gratitude quietly, then turns away, his figure fading into the distance. Several days later, at the Heroic Knight Order Guild headquarters, a maid delivers a letter addressed to Reinhard. He wonders aloud if it's from Claudia. Upon opening it, shock spreads across his face as he realizes the letter is from Lobelia, the one who defeated the Dragon King. Reinhard's thoughts are interrupted by a woman's joyful voice praising Lobelia for saving someone again. He looks on, puzzled, as the scene shifts to a peaceful moment where Lobelia is quietly acknowledged by others. The chapter closes on his contemplative expression, the mystery of Lobelia's true identity lingering. A man contemplates his plans upon arriving in a new country, hoping to help those in need and build his reputation. But he struggles to start conversations due to Lobelia's infamous reputation and sharp tongue. Despite many rejections, he presses on. Suddenly, a cat-eared girl calls out with a plaintive meow, capturing his attention. The cat girl clings to him, admitting she's hungry and asking for help. She stretches and yawns, her tail swaying as she walks. The man's eyes gleam with a newfound resolve, sensing a great opportunity has arrived. He offers her dried meat, which she eagerly devours, expressing delight at the meal. He admits he doesn't recognize her but hopes to gain favor with the beast men by helping her. She smiles warmly and asks his name, teasing that he'll be surprised by hers. With a confident grin, she introduces herself as Rydia Katesith, daughter of the Beastmen tribe leader. The man's expression darkens with sudden realization, and without a word, he turns to leave. Rydia calls after him in surprise, but he silently decides to just walk away. The current leader of the Beastmen tribe is Rydia Katesith, and his daughter is Princess Rydia. She has a self-centered personality and has escaped the strict restrictions of her stern father and the tribe rules. Moreover, as soon as Rydia became the leader, she started a large-scale war with the humans. She fiercely threatens anyone who calls her useless, vowing to kill every last one of them. The man glances back, wary that getting involved might brand him as teaming up with villains. The man contemplates that in the game, only Rydia's name was revealed, and there's no obligation or benefit for him to help her. The cat girl pleads for a reward, wanting to give him something for his help. He wonders about the reward, while she cheerfully declares she will specially become his wife. He firmly declines her offer. She insists she has fallen for him and asks if that isn't an honor. But he denies it flatly. She tries to charm him by showing off her chest, but he coldly tells her to go home, calling her a stupid cat. She yells that she'll persist even if it's just as a pet, causing him to sigh at her persistence. He abruptly shouts for her to stop already, saying he doesn't have time to waste on someone who brought this up themselves. She quietly responds with a soft sound and then collapses to the ground, exhausted. He asks if she has a fever, noting it's natural to feel this way when living a life of escape without a plan. He mutters that she's a truly troublesome fool. Suddenly, her eyes snap open and a pot of steaming food bubbles over a fire. The cat girl excitedly exclaims it's food, and he wonders if the smell woke her. She eagerly accepts the warm bowl, thanking him as she takes a spoonful, surprised by the taste. She declares it delicious, while he downplays it as just egg porridge. She happily imagines him becoming her mate and eating meals like this every day. He coldly tells her he can't be bothered to care for a brat and orders her to go home if her fever has gone down. She stubbornly refuses, insisting she has someone important to meet. He questions if it's the same reason she ran away, hating her hometown. He reflects that since he defeated the Dragon King instead of the heroic knights, changes might be happening, and cooperating with her could be an opportunity. She reveals the person she must meet is Rachel-chan, a girl studying magic at a place called Noah. She explains a rule forbids the leader of the beast men from leaving the forest, but she must meet Rachel one last time. He quietly offers to take her there, and she looks back in surprise as he prepares to help her. He proposes a deal. When she becomes the leader, she must do something for him. If she can make that happen, the negotiation is settled. Tears well in her eyes as she thanks him with a joyful hug. She clings to him, but he tells her to stop because it's annoying. Though he admits she's too cute, she nervously asks if there are any pursuers, and he confirms there are 2 members of the heroic knights nearby. Nearby, 2 figures discuss their plan to ambush and kill the targets, but one warns that killing them will lead to unavoidable war. Their mission is to bring back the Beast Men tribe's princess. The other questions if that's really the case. Suddenly, the man carrying the girl notices movement behind them and warns they will be exposed if they don't hurry. The girl shouts to alert him of the danger behind, but he calmly calls them fools. Arrows rain down swiftly, but the man calmly summons a fiery power. Invoking the breath of the flame spirit, flames burst forth, intercepting the arrows as he shields the girl clinging to him. With a swift motion, he propels them both away from danger. An explosion erupts where the arrows collided. The hooded archer questions the fairness of the attack, reminding Jake that he forbade killing. Jake admits he didn't expect so many to be shot down, but insists they must check the landing site to confirm the princess's survival and complete the mission. The man with the cloak stands silently, eyes closed, emanating a powerful aura. The hooded archer expresses surprise that this arrogant magician is their bodyguard. The man's presence commands attention as the group prepares to move forward. The female archer asks Jake if she has permission to kill the man. Jake assures her he will provide support from behind and tells her to rely on him. The woman laughs eerily, then leaps forward with a battle cry, her wild grin and playful demeanor contrasting sharply with the tension. The woman in the frilly dress swings her weapon fiercely, but the man in the cloak calmly blocks each strike with his arm. His fist clenches, emanating a dark energy as he counters effortlessly. The hooded archer watches intently, readying his bow. The man blocks another heavy blow. Remaining composed, the woman, frustrated, taunts him for not fighting back, calling it boring. She taps her weapon on the ground and advances with a determined stride. The man finally speaks, expressing a desire to talk. The woman smirks, calling him a criminal for aiding the princess's escape, even labeling him a kidnapper. The hooded archer suggests hearing them out. Noting the man's unusual silence so far, the woman agrees, showing no hostility. The man asserts his power, warning he could kill them all whenever he wished. The hooded archer nervously acknowledges this. The woman leans on the archer's arm, confident. The man demands to know the arrogant magician's true purpose in helping the princess escape, insisting it must be for a legitimate reason. The man explains his true intention is to allow her to meet a friend. The woman questions the meaning of friend with a doubtful tone. The hooded archer and the cat-eared woman stand silently. While the man inwardly hopes the heroic knights might understand if he speaks honestly, the woman accuses him of lying, challenging his claim. The man clenches his fist, vowing to buy time until Rydia escapes the forest despite the stubborn opposition. The cat-eared woman grips her weapon. Ready, suddenly, she launches a powerful dropkick directly at the man's face, shouting fiercely as he reels back in surprise. The cat-eared woman launches a fierce dropkick, striking the man squarely in the face and sending him sprawling backward. She taunts them, mocking their feeble efforts with a playful, confident grin. The man groans in pain, blood and saliva dripping from his mouth. The light-haired man shouts in frustration, calling her a stupid cat as she laughs triumphantly. Nearby, a woman in a frilly dress wonders aloud if the princess will join the fight. Another woman points out that her subordinate lies sprawled on the ground, questioning what she plans to do next. Suddenly, the cat-eared woman narrowly dodges a powerful swing from the spear-wielding opponent. Startled by the attack, the woman in the frilly dress screams for her to die, her rage boiling over. The cat-eared woman nimbly leaps and lands on a tree branch, taunting that the attacks of these lowly humans can't touch her. The spear-wielding woman pursues her swiftly, swinging her weapon as the cat-eared woman darts around. The light-haired man watches with irritation, ordering her to stop moving so much, clearly frustrated by her evasiveness. The light-haired man's expression hardens as he notices blood dripping from his hand, the skin torn away. He clenches his teeth, shocked as his finger falls off. The cat-eared woman gasps in surprise, and the light-haired man's eyes widen as he activates a dangerous state. A narration explains that Berserk mode is a limiter release triggered intentionally by the owner, allowing his scythe to absorb blood, blurring the line between friend and foe. The woman in the frilly dress grips her bloodied scythe with a wicked grin as she lunges forward. The cat-eared woman clings tightly to the light-haired man's cloak, who braces himself as she attacks fiercely, slashing the ground near them. The man scolds the cat-eared woman for not fleeing quickly, calling her a stupid cat, while she protests she can't abandon her husband. He questions who would want to marry her, his frustration clear. He reflects quietly that once the woman named Zordia changed, no one could stop her, though he hesitates to oppose the heroic knight order. Meanwhile, the frilly-dressed woman laughs maniacally as she charges. The man summons ominous chains that whip toward the attacker, but she effortlessly breaks them with a powerful swing of her scythe. The cat-eared woman screams in defiance as she swings her weapon wildly, forcing the man to shield the woman clinging to him. The frilly-dressed woman is blasted backward by a sudden, unseen force, crashing into the forest. The man watches in surprise, wondering whose attack it was. His expression tense as the cat-eared woman is thrown through the air, the mystery of the intervention hanging in the air. The hooded man orders to hurry and leave, warning that backup will arrive soon and they risk getting caught. The girl in the frilly dress struggles, growling in pain. The man questions if the mission wasn't to bring the girl back, but admits the situation changed. Zordiane might kill the princess too. He grips his bow, vowing to buy time. The light-haired man and the cat-eared woman express gratitude, surprised at the straightforwardness. The hooded man hopes the light-haired man can meet his friend someday, a faint smile breaking through his tense demeanor as night falls. Walking away with the cat-eared woman clinging to his back, the light-haired man apologizes softly. She protests she wouldn't make mistakes, but he insists everyone makes mistakes when alive, often struggling in ugly ways. The sky darkens as she winces, feeling the weight of his words. Embracing the cat-eared woman, he reflects that as long as one is alive, everything can be managed. Getting back up after falling is what life is about. He wonders if the efforts made will someday lead to something meaningful, the question lingering in the shadows of his thoughts. The cat-eared woman clings to the light-haired man's back, asking what's wrong. He brushes it off as nothing, but internally he recalls a voice that sounded familiar. He doubts it, reminding himself this body's personality is his now and decides it must be his imagination. Urging himself not to worry, his footsteps crunch softly on the forest floor as they move forward. Sunlight filters through the dense trees as they continue walking quietly through the forest. The man's expression remains thoughtful, while the cat-eared woman stays close behind him, alert to their surroundings. The peaceful forest contrasts with the tension in his mind. They arrive at a serene clearing bathed in sunlight, revealing a small, round building surrounded by trees. The man softly remarks that this must be the Hill of Flowers, a place of significance. The cat-eared woman leans gently against him, sharing the quiet moment. Nearby, a young woman with a staff stands ready, her eyes sharp as she channels magic. She strikes a tied bundle of sticks, causing it to burst into flames with a sharp crackle. She glances back cautiously, sensing something approaching as the two figures walk closer along the path. A young woman hears a voice and wonders who it is. She quickly recognizes the approaching figures and calls out, "Rydia!" The cat-eared woman excitedly shouts back, "Rachel-chan!" They rush into a joyful embrace, both exclaiming how much they've missed each other. The young woman introduces herself as Rachel and asks the cat-eared woman for her name. The cat-eared woman explains she has no name and is just a companion. The man standing beside them remains silent. Rachel expresses gratitude for safely bringing her friend and requests a spell demonstration using the Scarecrow staff. The man notes that Rachel seems unaware of who Lobelia is, while Rachel eagerly asks to see the spell. The man asks if something happened, mentioning he heard a crying voice. A man inside a building reacts with shock, recognizing the voice and fearing the situation is bad. The man outside wonders if the other knows his true identity. The man inside excitedly praises the spellbook, calling it incredible. He apologizes and humbly asks to see the spell, explaining it's his first time seeing the real thing and he wants to hold it. The man outside reluctantly hands over the spellbook, saying it's out of pity, while the other thanks him enthusiastically. The man invites them inside, saying it's not great standing outside and talking. Tea is poured as they sit around a table, sharing a surprisingly warm welcome. The man tries to open a spellbook, but it won't open. The cat-eared woman explains it only reveals its contents to the chosen person. The man admits he thought he'd finally read one but gives up for now. The young woman encourages him, confident he will be chosen someday. The cat-eared woman introduces herself as the Beastmen tribe's princess and thanks the man for taking care of her sworn friend, Rachel. The man feels overwhelmed by their gratitude, saying it's actually him being taken care of. The cat-eared woman explains she brought secret medicine from her tribe because the man has been running out of magical power lately. A bottle of the medicine is shown, with a note that beast men can suppress magical power depletion. The young woman hopes Rachel will continue helping him. While the cat-eared woman teases him as a hopeless master, the man and the cat-eared woman exchange looks, acknowledging the situation. The man suggests they head back, but the cat-eared woman protests, asking if they are going home already. He warns they are being pursued and staying longer could implicate them as accomplices. As they prepare to leave, the cat-eared woman stops them. Saying she has something to give them, she presents a sparkling box, asking them to accept it. The man is startled, imagining an engagement ring and wondering if Rydia is getting married. The cat-eared woman and Rachel both react with surprise, asking how he knew about the marriage. The man quickly clarifies it's not a wedding ring but a magical item. He explains that giving away magical items carelessly shows ignorance of their value. Holding the small item, he says his disciple has been stressed from not seeing her friend, but thanks to them bringing Rydia, he finally saw her smile. Again, grateful, he admits it's his first time handling a real spellbook and expresses sincere thanks. The cat-eared woman smiles as the man accepts the gift. The man and Rachel warmly wish them a safe journey and all the best. The door closes behind them as the cat-eared woman waves energetically, thanking them with a cheerful Naya, while standing beside the man, both looking ahead toward the path beyond their home. The cat-eared woman asks if the sparkling box is really a magic item and not an engagement ring. The man calls her a foolish cat, confident it must be a real magic item because he can feel the magic flowing. He admits he wasn't told about the item's effects but plans to investigate after escorting Rydia to the Great Forest. He reflects quietly that traveling alone for a month was surprisingly fun. The cat-eared woman suddenly asks if he fell for her, but he firmly denies it. She then hints that there's something he hasn't told her, prompting his curiosity. The man reveals his name as Lobelia Crowley, prepared for any reaction because he is fond of Rydia. The cat-eared woman reacts with surprise to the name, her expression shifting as she processes it. She excitedly calls him the famous magician and admits she was curious about what kind of horrible person he was, but never expected him to be so kind. The man quietly questions if she really thought he was unkind. His expression softening, the cat-eared woman beams happily, while he suddenly breaks down in silent sobs. Overwhelmed, she immediately asks if something is wrong, concerned. Suddenly, a voice calls out urgently, warning that Lobelia Crowley is surrounded by humans and beast men. The man and the cat-eared woman turn to see a group approaching, and a soldier calls for the princess to come quickly. The cat-eared woman stiffens, her eyes wide with alarm as the threat closes in. The cat-eared woman calls out Lobelia's name anxiously. He reassures her calmly, noting how convenient it is that her tribesmen have come to pick her up personally. He orders her to go, his expression serious. She looks at him with a quiet resolve before running toward the waiting tribe members. He reflects that if Jake escaped safely and delivered the message, everything should proceed smoothly, though the crime of kidnapping the Beastmen tribe's princess weighs heavily on him, especially concerning their companions. A man angrily accuses Lobelia of bringing others to the brink of death, shouting that because of him, they may never wake again. Lobelia questions what he means, confused. The man insists he sensed dark magic from Zordia and Jake, but only Lobelia uses dark magic. Lobelia denies the accusation, shouting for the man to shut up and claiming it wasn't him. Suddenly, Lobelia is struck in the chest by a magical attack, electricity crackling violently. He collapses to his knees, grimacing in pain. The cat-eared woman screams his name desperately as she rushes toward him, panic flooding her face. The scene shifts to the underground prison of the Heroic Knights Order, where Lobelia is confined in a cage with shackles that absorb magic and a barrier preventing escape. He wonders if Jake is in such bad shape that he cannot get up. He fears the situation is dire and that fighting back would only add to his crimes, knowing the hero Reinhard will not listen to his side since he is considered an enemy. A woman calls out urgently to Lobelia-sama as he approaches, his footsteps tapping steadily. She suddenly falls hard to the ground, exclaiming in pain. He looks on with concern as she nervously smiles, saying it's been a while. She expresses happiness that he remembered her, calling him Lien. Behind bars, she insists she knew Lobelia-sama wouldn't commit the cruel acts he's accused of and declares her belief in him. Excited, she vows to persuade the others immediately, but he stops her, saying there's no need. She looks surprised by his refusal. He explains that the only place left for Lien after the country's fall is here, and warns her not to get involved anymore, saying it was just a way to pass time. She clenches her fist, refusing to give up. She declares she is royalty and promises to repay the favor she owes him. Suddenly, a young man calls out to the princess, questioning why she is here. She tries to respond but he interrupts, urging her to wait. She confesses she has deep feelings for Lobelia-sama. Meanwhile, Lobelia feels as if he has been told something outrageous, his expression troubled as he watches the exchange. The quiet morning fills a simple room with 2 beds. One occupant lies unconscious with bandages on his head, while a woman with a braid stands nearby. They exchange gentle greetings. She says good morning to Reinhard, and he replies to Alicia, holding a small vase with flowers. Alicia expresses unease about doubting Reinhard without evidence. Though she doesn't reject his perspective, Reinhard wonders if the situation is truly acceptable. He reassures her, patting her head and explaining that her kindness is why she feels this way. He identifies Lobelia as the only magician capable of using dark magic, certain it's him. Alicia quietly acknowledges Reinhard's words, recalling how much she hates seeing her friends hurt. She insists she must teach Lobelia a lesson to prevent him from harming her friends again. Reinhard prepares to leave soon, entrusting Alicia with the care of the injured man. As he departs, Alicia's eyes widen in surprise. The scene shifts to a grand arena where a cloaked woman and 2 men await. The woman's footsteps echo as she descends stairs. A man in a dark cloak flanked by armored guards appears, silently acknowledging their arrival with a questioning expression. The young man confronts the cloaked figure, confessing he hadn't heard anything for months and was unaware of the plot against his friends. He demands a fair duel to personally pass judgment. The cloaked man closes his eyes, calling him an idiot and questioning why they didn't talk things out first. The young man shouts that there's nothing to discuss with someone like the cloaked figure and insists they have evidence. Warning against lies, the cloaked man sighs, denying involvement, while the young man swears he'll never forgive him, addressing Lobelia with a group of allies behind him. The cloaked man is handcuffed but remains calm, thinking the young man truly wants a duel. He reflects on his plan to thoroughly defeat the young man before revealing the truth, knowing Reinhard's fall would only anger the others. The cloaked man summons a magical book, preparing to face off against the hero Reinhard. The young man readies his sword, tension mounting as the duel is about to begin. 2 men lock eyes in a tense standoff, the younger one charging forward with determination while the older, calm figure stands ready, holding a magical book. The younger man shouts a fierce battle cry and swings his sword, but the older man effortlessly blocks the attack, telling him to lower his sword, doubting anyone of his caliber could match him. The younger man refuses and lunges again, but the older man summons ominous chains to bind him. The younger man struggles, insisting he never harmed the older man's friends and explains it was another who went berserk, causing the chaos. Bound and desperate, the younger man demands the older one believe his story and questions if he's trying to escape his sins. He angrily calls him a coward, raising his sword to fight despite his chains, while the older man remains composed, urging him to ask those involved directly and expressing no desire to fight. The young man charges with fierce determination, his sword swinging toward the older figure. The older man, calm and composed, absorbs the strike effortlessly, his eyes sharp as he questions the power behind the holy sword. The younger man warns not to underestimate him, a confident smirk crossing his face. The younger warrior lunges again, shouting a battle cry as he swings his sword. The older man blocks with a flick of his hand, flames licking his arm as he deflects the attack. The younger man pleads for understanding, questioning why the older man won't listen or believe his words. The older man clenches his fist, his voice rising in frustration as he demands to know if it's because of who he is, Lobelia, that he's being treated as the villain. The younger man looks on, confused and pained by the accusation. The older man slams his hand onto a magical tome, declaring it ridiculous to go easy on a false hero. Shadows swirl around his fingers as he vows to convince the younger man with his strength, his resolve unshaken as the confrontation intensifies. A black magical circle erupts beneath the young warrior, who clutches his sword tightly, alarmed by the sudden effect. He wonders if this is weakening magic and struggles to maintain his stance. From a distance, a figure commands the launch of a jet-black spear toward him. The spear flies swiftly, forcing the young warrior to dodge desperately. Cursing his luck, the attacker closes in, striking fiercely, landing a slash on the young man's shoulder. The impact sends them crashing through the arena, the force shaking the surroundings. A group of onlookers watches tensely as the attacker stands confidently, declaring that if the young man were a true hero, he would only be knocked out. A woman accuses the attacker of trying to kill their leader as well as their comrades. The attacker coldly dismisses the accusation, calling them small fry and ordering them to step back. The injured young man recalls the slash from the holy sword and the duel challenge that led to this moment. The young warrior raises his voice, demanding everyone not interfere, insisting this is a serious duel. He admits he was counterattacked but refuses help, saying defeating his opponent alone is what matters. He expresses his pain at seeing his friends hurt and his resolve to end this himself. His allies call out to him, showing concern and support as the tension in the arena mounts. The young warrior, bruised but determined, challenges Lobelia with a confident smile, daring her to come at him. The opponent, eyes sharp and focused, responds with a cold promise to pin him down, fingers poised to strike. Arrows whistle through the air as the duel intensifies, the young man charging forward with his staff raised. The opponent blocks with his sword, the clash sending sparks flying and a splatter of blood marking the strike. The young warrior unleashes a powerful flame spirit attack, the fiery breath surging toward his opponent. His companions cheer him on, their support fueling his strength, while the opponent acknowledges the growing power with a troubled expression. The young man accuses the opponent of harming his friends to kidnap Princess Rydia, demanding answers for his casual arrival. The opponent insists he was merely acting as her guard to facilitate a meeting with an old friend. The young warrior, unconvinced, questions the truth of his words as they clash again in a fierce exchange. He recalls the harsh rejection. No one like him could do any good. A cold voice declares he is no longer their son, and that their bond cannot be broken alone. The figure kneels in solitude, embodying Lobelia's true loneliness as others walk away, leaving him isolated. The young man demands to know why so many were discarded without a chance to speak. The other strikes him fiercely, the impact echoing the weight of betrayal. Thrown to the ground, the man questions if his worth is tied solely to being the hero of justice, anguished over being hated just for who he is. Kneeling beside the wounded man, the other confesses a desire to live a happy life recognized by all. He insists he has the right to bring happiness to others and urges the young man to find his own reason to protect those around him. The battered young man, bloodied and bruised, struggles to understand why tears fall from his eyes. The other, with a tear streaming down his face, clenches his fist tightly before turning away. He tries to raise his fist to strike but finds his body unresponsive. Frozen in place, confused, he wonders if the paralysis is caused by Reinhard, but then realizes it must be something else. The wounded man's hand is forcibly grabbed, halting his movement. The other spits blood, his strength fading as he looks on. The young man, still bruised and bleeding, declares the fight is over, standing resolute before the kneeling figure. Suddenly, a woman rushes forward, shouting for them to stop. The moment freezes as she intervenes, signaling the battle has already ended. The wounded man, bloodied and exhausted, looks toward a woman with braided hair, wondering why Alicia, the main heroine of the game, is here. As others approach, the group gathers, their expressions tense and uncertain on the brink of despair. A tall figure in armor firmly declares the fight is over, addressing Reinhard. Another man protests, demanding to know why Sieg interferes when he was so close to avenging their fallen comrades. The armored man insists this is their loss, not his. The bruised man, gripping his sword, is shocked to hear that the accused did not kidnap the princess nor harm Jake or Zordia. He demands evidence to prove this. The injured figure, kneeling and bloodied, is labeled the arrogant magician, confirming the truth of his words. The battered man reflects bitterly that no matter how hard he tries, his efforts will never be acknowledged. He resolves that if Lobelia, who was never truly saved, chose to embrace evil, then he no longer needs to save anyone. A woman quietly affirms that he saved them, her gaze steady and sincere. A woman declares that without him, her hometown would still suffer oppression, calling him undeniably her savior. The white-haired man admits he was skeptical when he learned Lobelia had defeated the Dragon King before him, but acknowledges many have been freed from danger. A royal guard announces they have come at Lien's request to protect Lobelia, the benefactor who saved their master. The woman explains that Jake woke up and revealed everything. How Lobelia helped Princess Rydia meet her friend and stopped Zordia from killing the princess when he went berserk. She pleads for the sword to be lowered, calling the accusations lies. A bruised man shouts that Lobelia is evil and would never help anyone. The woman confronts the man, telling him he acted terribly without evidence and demands they admit they were wrong. Tears form as she insists neither Jake nor others asked him to do those things. The man struggles to respond, burdened by guilt. The battered man stands silently, sweat and blood marking his face. As others watch anxiously, he collapses to his knees, overwhelmed. The group gathers around him, their concern evident, while the woman stands quietly, her expression somber. Alicia tightly grasps the injured man's hand, channeling a glowing healing energy that surrounds them both. She pleads softly, tears in her eyes, begging him not to die. The man, blood dripping from his mouth, bows his head in silent acceptance. He admits he doesn't want to die either, confessing his inability to accept bad endings. Three onlookers urge him to hold on, reminding him that he saved someone and is finally recognized. Alicia places a glowing ring on his finger, urging him to live. The healing light intensifies as Alicia and the man vanish in a flash, leaving the others stunned. They realize Alicia and Lobelia have disappeared, staring at the empty spot in disbelief. Alone in a dim cave, Alicia awakens, looking around uncertainly. She recalls how a sudden light enveloped them while she was treating Lobelia. Hearing faint wind from beyond, she resolves to search for the cave's exit and the owner of the mysterious robe. The injured man, bloodied and solemn, asks where she is going, startling the woman with the braid who gasps in fear. A distant scream echoes through the cave as bats flutter away. The woman, cheeks puffed in frustration, pleads for him not to bring up the frightening incident again. The man, now shirtless and tending to his wounds, remarks on her fear. She questions why he is covered in blood despite his unhealed injuries, while he insists he's a gentleman and won't think ill of her. He explains that a magician gave him a ring with 2 spells, one for powerful healing from a holy sword, and another for random location teleportation triggered in danger. He recounts how the ring brought them to the cave, and after he defeated the goblins, she screamed at him, she apologizes, and he assures her it's fine. She notes the storm outside, realizing that's why she heard the wind blowing. They plan to leave once the storm passes. The man reflects on the abnormal weather outside the cave, identifying their location as the Demon Continent, a barren land where only the strongest races survive. He recalls the long conflict between demons and humans when it was called the Spirit Continent. Holding a compass, he guesses they should head south to return to where they were before. Alicia murmurs Reinhardt's name quietly as he reflects on the consequences of the teleportation. Realizing only Alicia got involved in it, he hopes he won't be mistaken for a kidnapper again. The harsh environment of the Demon Continent might place Alicia outside the search range for now, despite Reinhardt's desperate love and determination to find her. Reinhardt anxiously grips his sword, sweating as he worries that failing to bring Alicia back soon will mean certain death. Resolving firmly, he declares his decision to make her safe return his next mission. Vowing to do whatever it takes, Alicia watches silently, sensing his resolve as a new goal is set. Footprints stretch across the barren Demon Continent under a bright sun. The man and woman walk side by side, the woman adjusting her braid as the man grimly comments on the harsh weather. Noting the storm last night must have cleared the clouds, he tells her the heat resistance potion she used earlier was the last one available. The woman hesitates before asking why he has always seemed angry whenever he appeared before them, especially toward Reinhardt. He responds coldly, refusing to waste time fighting them anymore. Internally, he reflects that Lobelia is the type who can't relax unless he's number one. Explaining his personal dislike for Reinhardt and why Alicia might be suspicious of his recent behavior, the woman quietly acknowledges this. Suddenly, 2 large scorpions emerge from the sand. Hissing aggressively, the woman reacts with alarm, but the man dismisses them as mere insects and urges her to use her fire magic, reminding her that she is a magician too. The man conjures swirling flames and unleashes them toward the scorpions, engulfing them in fire. The woman follows suit, casting fireballs that trap the creatures in blazing orbs. The scorpions struggle as the flames consume them, forcing them back into the sand while the 2 stand ready, prepared for whatever comes next. She pants heavily, struggling to keep up, but denies being tired when asked. He coldly calls her useless, warning that collapsing here would be trouble without hesitation. He sweeps her into his arms as she cries out in surprise. She protests that they just met and this isn't appropriate, but he snaps for her to be quiet. He confesses his hatred for women who are burdens and seem like they might die at any moment, contradicting her claim that Reinhardt always praised her. She sobs quietly and turns away, while he silently admires her tenacity and envies Reinhardt for having such a girl. Continued. Under a starry night sky, she admits she can't understand why he didn't leave her behind if the teleport was unintentional. She wonders if it's because she defended him before. He remains silent as she sits by a small fire, explaining she did it all for Reinhardt, not wanting him to become a murderer. He questions if Reinhardt deserves forgiveness, since he caused the problems in the first place. She insists he does because he's kind. He calls her twisted, while narration describes Alicia as honest, kind-hearted, and loving flowers, but blind to Reinhardt. She depends on him too much, making it hard for others to sympathize with her. He insists it doesn't matter that she defended him and vows not to let her die while she's with him. When she asks why, he admits it would be inconvenient for him if she died. He wants her to live a long life with Reinhardt, so the main heroine of this game can find happiness. A tear falls from her eye as he silently acknowledges that if Alicia dies, it will put him in a bad spot, and besides, the narration reveals Reinhardt and Alicia first met at a shrine deep within the Forbidden Forest, where she had been sealed away for 1,000 years. Reinhard felt sorry for her and broke the seal, marking the beginning of the game's story. Deep within her, Alicia holds the power to turn the world upside down and is one of the world's equilibria. If she loses it, the world itself could face destruction. He warns that many people seek to misuse Alicia's powers, so she must be protected at all costs to avoid a bad ending. Exhausted, he admits he's tired of always helping others and decides to take a short nap. Alicia curls up, weary, while he watches silently, his gaze heavy with concern. Alicia reflects that Lobelia-san never revealed his true reason for helping her and wonders if he is after her powers. As she walks cautiously, she notes she hasn't encountered a single monster and wonders if she has reached a safe zone. Suddenly, a trap triggers beneath her feet, and she screams as the ground collapses. Alicia lands hard after falling through a hole in the ceiling, groaning in pain. She looks up at the night sky visible through the jagged opening, water dripping down the stone walls, surrounded by crumbling pillars and ancient bricks. She wonders aloud if she has fallen into a labyrinth. She surveys the vast chamber, noting the hole in the ceiling is too high to reach. Determined, she resolves to find another way out to the surface, alone and vulnerable. She admits to herself how pathetic she feels and how much she misses everyone, especially Reinhard. Tears begin to fall as she apologizes for the harsh words she said to him. Suddenly, a loud noise echoes through the labyrinth, startling her. She questions if the resident being has already noticed her presence. Panic rising, she urges herself to escape quickly, pushing off the ground to run. Her heart pounds as she races toward a dark archway, repeating the need to move faster and faster. Shadows stretch across the floor as she cautiously advances deeper into the labyrinth. Ahead, a dark, ominous mass coils on the ground, and a massive, eerie eye opens wide, fixating on her. Fear grips her as she faces this unknown, threatening presence. A grotesque, multi-eyed creature looms before Alicia, its many eyes staring blankly and its mouth agape with drool dripping down. She gasps softly, overwhelmed by the monstrous presence. Lien notices fresh footprints nearby and curses his carelessness for missing Alicia's escape while he napped. He doubts the labyrinth's existence here, suspecting he might have been misled. He recalls the game's labyrinth around this area and reasons that Alicia, a non-combat magician, should have been defeated long ago, considering the possibility that the labyrinth's master guided her safely. He contemplates the odds of encountering monsters along the path. Standing beneath the moonlit sky, Lien decides the boss room is the logical destination if the labyrinth exists. He recalls grinding through this place multiple times in the game and prepares to move swiftly. Lien lands inside a chamber filled with formidable A-rank monsters. Calm and confident, he welcomes the challenge, calling them meat lumps and smiling as he cracks his knuckles, ready to relieve his stress by fighting them. Lien summons a swirling vortex of energy in his fist as monstrous creatures roar and charge toward him. He unleashes a powerful strike called Curse Break, shattering the oncoming threat with a devastating blow. A bat-like monster swoops down, but Lien calmly punches it away, then conjures a fiery, serpentine force that lashes out. Clearing his path, he dashes forward, recalling the labyrinth's layout and plotting to turn at the next corner to reach the boss room. Lien kicks open a massive iron door, his eyes fixed on the entrance. Beyond the door, a grotesque, multi-eyed creature stands, holding a small, struggling figure with a braid. The captive woman weakly calls for help, her voice trembling. Lien dismisses her pleas as troublesome and casts a spell named Void Slash, slicing into the monstrous captor with a swift, magical attack. Lien catches Alicia in his arms just as a massive thunderous attack, named Deadly Thunder, crashes down toward the ground, sending a shockwave of destruction. He summons a crackling orb of dark energy in his palm, preparing to retaliate. Alicia apologizes nervously, flinching as Lien lightly taps her forehead in response. She calls him Lobelia-san, and he tells her they will talk after dealing with their current enemy, raising a dark, ominous spear that begins to float forward. Lien launches the Annihilation Spear at a grotesque, multi-eyed fiend, the spear spinning with destructive force as it pierces the monster. The fiend's body starts to disintegrate, its eyes falling away like detached orbs, overwhelmed by the attack. Alicia urgently calls out to Lien, who covers his face with his hand. Exhausted, they walk together through a stone corridor as Alicia apologizes for running off alone and causing trouble. Lien reflects that the S-rank monster fiend evolves over time, making prolonged battles difficult, and acknowledges Alicia's fear and anxiety about him. He tells her to forget it, promising to prove he is an ally despite his sharp tongue. He insists he has no intention of making her a test subject or letting her die and cause trouble with Reinhard again. He says it's more reasonable to send her safely, reminding her she's different from common fools and demands she have some self-awareness. She nervously agrees. He asks if there's anything else, and she hesitantly begins to speak. She bows deeply, thanking him for saving her, but he tells her to drop the honorifics because they're too formal. He reveals his desire to go to a certain town. Even if it means taking a detour, she questions the town's name. He names the town Arcadia, and she recognizes it as the place managed by Reinhard. A map shows Arcadia as a northwest town by the sea where humans and demons who became refugees from the war against the Demon King were sent. The narration explains the hero has managed it from generation to generation, but supplies are scarce and supervision is lacking, leaving residents in poverty. He plans to take measures while in the demon continent. They arrive at a fortified gate, and she asks if this is really Arcadia. Suddenly, something strikes near her, causing her to react in shock and dodge as the scene ends. Arrows are drawn on them from the watchtower as they demand to know who they are and what they want. The man with the braid explains they lost their home in the war and came here hoping for a place to live. The man with the cloak advises her to play along if they want to be welcomed. She pleads desperately for help, fearing they have nowhere else to go. The tension breaks as a voice orders the archers to cease fire. A man with a ponytail acknowledges their long and arduous journey and invites them inside. The group enters a quiet, worn-down street where a few people sit exhausted on the steps, and a dog rests nearby. The atmosphere is somber and weary. The woman reflects on how she had no idea Arcadia was in such poor condition. She reveals that Arcadia is just a catchphrase to justify removing nuisances and deceiving people, as society disfavors supporting demons, once enemies. The man in the cloak, preparing food, notes that Reinhard likely doesn't know about the current situation either. He urges her to eat, warning that she won't get anywhere without regaining strength. She thanks them for the food and takes a bite, surprised by how delicious it is compared to the monster meat and rations she's had before. She wonders what makes it different, perhaps the spices. The man tells her to save her thoughts until she finishes eating. Suddenly, he alerts her that Lobelia is behind her, causing her to turn in surprise. 3 children press their hands and faces against a window, watching intently. The man with light hair looks on thoughtfully. The woman with the long braid asks quietly what they should do. The 3 sit together, eating their meal in silence. The empty bowls clatter as they finish eating and thank their hosts. A young man introduces himself as ours, greeting the newcomers with a smile, while a girl named Jessica holds a stuffed bear and explains she was bored with the bland food at home. Another boy, Rue, apologizes, explaining that ships stopped coming 3 months ago, cutting off aid. The man with light hair asks their opinion of the hero, realizing the situation is worse than he imagined. The children bluntly call the hero a hypocrite, scum, and the root of all evil. The man responds with a wry smile, acknowledging the harsh accusation but expressing his desire to teach them how to survive in this harsh world. He hopes the residents will eventually manage without the hero's help. He calls out to the children, asking if they want strength, surprising them. The 3 children eagerly affirm they want strength, their faces bright with determination. The man tells the woman with the braid that he will train them all together later and to be prepared. She warns him not to ask them to sacrifice half their lives, but he brushes it off before it gets dark. He announces he will go on patrol, and the woman tells him to be careful. The man reflects on how the townspeople shared their food despite the aid being cut off, feeling the need to thank them somehow. He considers that some easy prey nearby should suffice. Suddenly, a large creature's foot steps into view behind him. A massive boar snorts as it stands before him. The man grins and declares it a jackpot, then swiftly casts a spell called Jet Black Spear, launching multiple spears toward the beast. The boar is struck repeatedly and collapses. The man happily remarks on his luck in finding such a giant pig so easily and suggests taking it back immediately. He admits he can't carry it all but will take as much as he can. Suddenly, he senses something and turns sharply, surprised. A sinister laugh echoes as a figure with long hair and horns appears, introducing herself as Dragon King Boros. She mockingly calls herself the return of the loser from last time and offers her service, implying a confrontation is about to begin. The Dragon King Boros urgently pleads for mercy, begging the man to put away his annihilation spear and insisting she means no harm. The man's expression hardens as he bitterly questions why she is still alive. She explains that Lobelia-sama's fictional Hell's Gate forced her to choose between swearing loyalty or becoming part of the abominations within. Bowing deeply, she declares her wholehearted decision to serve him. The man suspects she's setting him up to be betrayed, but she insists it's genuine. She passionately confesses her heartfelt devotion, claiming the dragon race always follows the stronger one. The man, unsettled by her words, orders her to return. She pleads desperately to prove her usefulness, but he demands she show it immediately. She enthusiastically agrees and points to a massive boar, offering its meat for the starving people of Arcadia. She promises to transport it unnoticed, reassuring him she can always return to the spellbook if needed. The man acknowledges her usefulness cautiously, deciding to use her until the right moment comes. The townspeople stare in awe, recognizing the massive slain monster and marveling at how one person could have hunted it alone. A man expresses relief that Tori-san has come to their town. Tori insists that simply receiving help isn't enough and suggests turning any leftover meat into jerky. Another man, a warrior, invites Tori to join their hunting group in the Bone Eater Valley, cautioning to keep his name a secret to stay safe. Tori agrees to provide guidance, which the warriors appreciate. Jessica asks if she can join the group, explaining that Tori taught her offensive magic and that gaining real battle experience is important. The leader agrees, emphasizing the need for more supplies and announcing a hunting expedition planned for 5 days later. Ellie casts a powerful flame blast, demonstrating her growing skills. The group praises her, noting this as their biggest catch yet. They discuss the rise in powerful monsters and speculate that defeating the fiend Gorgros may have disturbed the local ecosystem. Ellie reflects on how strange it is that Bone Eater Valley should only have low-level monsters. Suddenly, Ellie warns the others to watch out as a large beast lunges at the young warrior. The attack catches him off guard, and Ellie's eyes widen in shock as the fight intensifies. Alarmed, the warriors ask if they missed a kill as one of their own lies injured on the ground. Ellie urgently warns Tori that a group of monsters is approaching from the east. The leader assesses the situation as chaotic and orders everyone to retreat while he stays behind to handle the threat. Ellie channels healing magic over the wounded warrior, her expression tense and focused. The injured man weakly spits blood but remains conscious. Ellie turns away, burdened by the gravity of the situation. Gripping her sword tightly, Ellie steels herself and dashes forward, ignoring Tori's shocked call. He demands to know what she's doing, but she presses on with determination. Ellie launches into a fierce assault against the pack of snarling monsters, swinging her sword with precision and force, cutting down the attacking beasts as they close in. The battlefield lies silent, littered with fallen monsters, their wounds still bleeding. A lone figure in a cloak kneels amid the carnage, her sword planted in the ground beside her. A man in dark robes watches her quietly, his expression heavy with sorrow. The cloaked woman breaks down, tears falling as she leans on the man for support. He gently calls her name, concern softening his gaze. She clings to him, overwhelmed by grief and exhaustion. Her cries echo across the empty field as she sobs uncontrollably in his arms. He holds her close, his face a mix of pain and understanding. A reflective voice narrates how she has changed. No longer the heroine who needed protection, but someone hardened by the trials of this unknown land. Still weeping, she confesses her helplessness in the labyrinth and the burden of relying on others once more. Her sword lies abandoned nearby, stained and forgotten. The man listens silently as she admits her fear of facing the rest of the Night Order if things remain unchanged. Tears stream down her face as she clings tightly, desperate and broken, asking what she should do. He holds her firmly, his expression heavy with sorrow and resolve. Their hands grasp each other in silent support. They sit together on the barren ground, united in a quiet vow to become someone who can protect others. A month has passed since then. He taught the men how to hunt while the women learned to cook. Meanwhile, knowledge was shared with the children, creating a sense of community and growth. Ars, Jessica, and Rue trained orphan children who wished to help others, sharing meals and teaching them magic control. Ars beams with pride at their progress, while another reflects on how the town feels livelier and how Alicia has quietly made friends. Two women sit together, one teasing Ellie about her situation, protected by a handsome, intimidating man while waiting to reunite with her lover. A playful conversation unfolds, with others suggesting Tori might have feelings for Ellie, causing some embarrassment and awkwardness. The teasing continues as the woman insists there must be a reason Tori protects Ellie, hinting it could be because he likes her. Ellie blushes, nervously denying any romantic feelings, but the others firmly believe she definitely does. Ellie blushes nervously, admitting it's not that she isn't happy, despite being teased for it. The other woman smiles knowingly, insisting that's exactly what she means. While Ellie falls silent, lost in thought, the night sky stretches quietly above them. Sitting side by side on a porch, Ellie asks why he wanted to help the people of the town. He replies there's no need for a reason, gently telling her not to apologize for every little thing. He reflects that people can change if they walk the path of atonement, no matter how heavy their sins. The conversation deepens as he wonders if he will ever be forgiven. Admitting he has gone too far in the opposite direction, he vows not to cause more pain or watch others suffer, promising to walk the path of redemption forever if necessary. Ellie listens intently, her expression softening with emotion. Ellie quietly asks if she could walk that path with him, seeking his acceptance. He looks back at her with a calm, hopeful gaze as she nervously wonders if that would be okay, the stars shining above them as they share this fragile moment. He insists he's fine on his own and reminds her she has friends waiting. She admits she said something strange but agrees, then asks if it's all right to leave first since she has things to handle tomorrow. He quietly tells her to go ahead. She thanks him and bids goodnight as she turns to leave. He freezes, realizing she might want to spend the rest of her life with him, struggling to believe it. A candle flickers softly nearby. Time passes and a month later they spar fiercely, their swords clashing repeatedly. She attacks with nimble, fast slashes, but he remains composed, analyzing her skill and noting her talent for swordsmanship over magic. Exhausted, she admits she couldn't land a hit today either. He judges her performance as passable while recalling how quickly she's become unmatched in Arcadia, her small stature and speed giving her an edge in battle. Morning training ends with a call to eat. Ellie and Tori greet their master cheerfully, but Rue warns them not to overdo it. At the table, Tori promises to teach advanced magic, sparking excitement and concern about a potential disaster from a huge explosion. The master reflects on spending mornings training disciples and afternoons helping with tasks. A man entrusts Tori with the day's hunt. As they walk together with comrades, the master contemplates this peaceful routine as the redemption he sought. Two hunters celebrate catching a large monster, noting fewer recent casualties and improved stability. The master smiles, hopeful that reclaiming his name may soon be reality. A woman points towards smoke rising from the town, catching their attention. At Arcadia Port, the arrival of the heroic Knight Order's ship brings supplies, but suspicion arises over the Spirit Church's presence. The church is known for persecuting demons and denying the land's existence. Suddenly, a woman calls out sharply, drawing attention as tension builds. A man greets Alicia warmly, relieved to find her after a long absence and her unfortunate mission to the demon continent. She expresses gratitude for the help she received and admits she has grown fond of life in Arcadia. The man smiles gently, glad to hear this. Alicia asks where Reinhard is, and the man explains that Reinhard asked him, his best friend, to handle matters in his absence. A tense man pushes forward, accusing them of nearly starving everyone to death. Alicia responds calmly, reminding him that they guaranteed everyone's safety. The tense man lashes out, shouting insults, but Alicia swiftly silences him with a sharp strike. She scolds him for refusing to hand over the demons, calling him stupid. A priest nearby agrees quietly. Alicia reassures Alicia that she is finally leaving the filthy place, though Alicia looks uncertain. On a ship, a group arrives with the intent to purge the demons of Arcadia. People are forcibly dragged away in panic. The man who was struck lies on the ground, bleeding. A chilling voice warns that anyone who questions or resists this righteous purge will be killed, signaling the end of the peaceful days. A man with sharp eyes surveys a devastated cityscape strewn with rubble and fallen bodies. He quietly questions the ruin before him, stunned by the destruction. Two young survivors urgently call out to their master, revealing that Rue lies injured. The master turns toward them, concern deepening as they plead for Rue's life, trusting only him to save their friend. Rue lies on the ground, bloodied and barely conscious. The master solemnly holds a vial, explaining that the panacea cannot revive the dead. The young survivors absorb the harsh truth, tears streaming down one girl's face as she struggles to accept the loss. The master recounts working with the town's warriors to find survivors, but only 30 were found. He reveals that Alicia is missing, and a scarred warrior deduces that the Spirit Church and the heroic knights are collaborating, which explains the rising demon deaths. The group sits quietly amid the ruins, weighed down by grim realities. In the original story, Elliot explained that Arcadia fell into poverty due to poor supervision and internal strife, leading to its destruction. Reinhard trusted his best friend's words without doubt. The two stand close, the older man placing a reassuring hand on the younger shoulder, a faint smile breaking through the tension. The man reflects on how everyone had finally found a reason to live peacefully, only to have it all taken away in mere hours. He expresses relief at seeing Ye alive, while a young soldier urgently asks Tori what they should do next. Another voice calls out, shocked that everyone has gathered here, before revealing that Ellie was taken by their enemies. The group listens as the soldier recounts how Ellie protected them from death until a blonde man named Elliot appeared, promising to spare them if she obeyed. But it was a lie. Though the soldier escaped, nearly everyone else was killed, and Ellie was dragged away. The weight of betrayal and loss hangs heavily as the soldier's tears fall. Reinhardt's expression darkens as he questions if he is doomed to make wrong choices because he is the villain, wondering if he must become like Lobelia just to survive. Clutching his face, he laughs bitterly, vowing that if something has been taken from him, he will take it back by any means necessary, for the sake of those he holds dear. The man laughs bitterly, questioning why he hesitated so long. When the armored soldier calls him Tori, he denies it, revealing instead that he is Lobelia Crowley, the arrogant magician. On board the heroic Night Order's ship, a woman with a braid kneels silently. A man cheerfully urges her to stop sulking and join the fun, but she remains silent. He drinks casually despite her cold glare. She accuses him of killing innocent people, but he brushes it off with a smile and a cruel slap. She glares fiercely, calling him a bitch, while he covers his mouth, seething with anger. He grabs her arm, demanding when she became bold enough to glare at him like that, and questions if she lost her mind after coming to the demon continent. He reminds her he kept her alive only to make her his woman, his smile twisted with dark intent. A man cruelly holds a woman's face, taunting her to say, "Save me, Reinhard." While warning no one will come to help, she trembles, tears falling as she forces out, "Save me, Lobelia." The man's expression hardens at the name, pushing her away sharply. On board a ship at night, a woman in armor hears a sudden noise and asks, "What's that sound?" Hooded figures silently approach from the shadows, their presence ominous and threatening. Under a crescent moon, a man in a cloak solemnly declares, "From here on out, it's the beginning of hell." His gaze sharpens as he confronts the arrogant magician, Lobelia, with a mix of fear and resolve. The hooded figures launch an attack, shouting to quickly set up a barrier. The defenders scramble, struggling against the overwhelming assault. A priest urgently commands the others to protect him and prevent the monsters from breaking through as the battle intensifies. A man lunges forward, shouting to kill, swinging a sword at a cloaked figure who calmly raises his hand to block the attack with a shimmering magic barrier. The attacker gasps in shock, realizing it's a magic barrier, but the cloaked man remains composed as the sword is grabbed mid-swing, causing the attacker to grimace in pain. Hooded figures cry out in fear, calling for Elliot-sama as he crashes down on one, smashing him into the ground. Elliot warns that escape is impossible, then swiftly dispatches the attackers with precise strikes, their weapons piercing their bodies as they fall. Kneeling survivors plead desperately for salvation, but Elliot's expression hardens. He thinks the god these cultists worship is evil and vows to make them suffer for the pain they've inflicted on Arcadia. He wonders if Alicia is still somewhere inside the ship as he stands in a doorway, preparing to search. Elliot notices a single open door and steps toward it. Inside, Alicia kneels, startled and reaching out. Elliot immediately spots the bruise on her face and calls her name with concern, his voice filled with urgency. Elliot approaches Alicia, his figure casting a long shadow over her as she kneels. He notices the blood staining his hands and clothes, realizing why she must be terrified. He admits to himself that he truly looks like a villain now. Alicia, tears streaming down her face, confesses she believed he would come. Elliot gently reassures her, calling himself foolish for being worthy of her trust. Their emotional bond deepens as he comforts her with a tender hand on her head. Elliot offers Alicia a strange recovery potion, warning her to drink it before rejoining the others. Despite her hesitation over its bitter taste and odd color, he commands her to drink without question. As she swallows, the potion induces sleep, and Elliot cradles her gently, determined to shield her from the devastation outside. A woman urgently reports that Ars is missing despite the enemies outside being wiped out. Elliot recalls how Ars insisted on joining to avenge Rue, regretting his decision. Suddenly, an explosion shakes the area, and Elliot steels himself, vowing to pull himself together and avoid further mistakes. A commanding voice orders everyone to evacuate and return to the fishing boat immediately. When asked about Lobelia, he insists he'll handle the remaining enemies and catch up after finding Ars. He demands they leave at once, emphasizing it as an order. He reflects grimly that the ship is likely at its limit after the explosion, and searching in large groups risks sinking it. He refuses to watch any more comrades die. The man mutters a frustrated sound, admitting it was a gamble that paid off. Suddenly, a young man bound and guarded calls out to him as Master. The older man smiles faintly, while the captive's worried eyes reveal the danger Ars is in. The narration questions what Lobelia will do with his disciple Ars in peril. The captive Ars and his guard face off as the guard demands how Arcadia's enemies managed to capture him. The guard accuses the captive of caring about a child's life, referencing Elisha's earlier call and asking if something happened between them. Ars coldly orders the guard to release him. The guard offers to free Ars only if Ars kills himself, a cruel ultimatum that shocks Ars. Ars defiantly challenges the guard, declaring he is not afraid to die and that his master will avenge Rue and the others. The guard angrily shouts for Ars to shut up as chains rattle and bind Ars tightly, sealing his fate. The guard swiftly moves to restrain Ars with heavy chains. Ars struggles, surprised by the guard's sudden use of divine power to switch places with him, a tactic that leaves Ars bound and vulnerable. The guard stands firm, watching Ars fall helplessly. The guard cradles the injured Ars, relieved he is still alive, and prepares a potent panacea to counteract the corrosive black magic affecting Ars's chains. He questions Ars about his friendship with Rue from the demon clan, expressing disgust at Ars's human words and doubting Ars truly understands the situation. The memory surfaces. A young boy is dragged by the collar, surrounded by the brutal torture of his family and friends at the hands of demons. The boy endures the humiliation of being broken and tormented, glaring fiercely as he grips a sword, defiant despite his suffering. The boy shouts a warning, refusing to be belittled, and launches a powerful attack to create distance from his tormentor. Flames roar and debris scatter as he desperately tries to escape the threat. The tormentor, cloaked and calm, questions why the infamous Lobelia would fight for someone else's sake. Mocking the boy's softer nature, the boy retorts with equal venom, refusing to be understood or defeated by such arrogance, clashing swords with fierce resolve. The boy reflects on the shared pain of betrayal by demons, like Lobelia's own past, and the burning desire for revenge that drives them both. Despite the weight of his comrade's suffering, he steels himself, determined that he cannot back down now. The Divine Armament Grady switch has a troublesome ability that swaps its user's position with a designated target. Its cooldown is long, and the range isn't infinite. The black magic can wipe out any enemies remaining inside the ship. To unleash a spell large enough to swallow the entire ship, he must conserve his magic until fully charged, so no flashy spells can be used now. Taking down the enemy in one strike will be harder. But that's perfect. He vows not to give his foe the privilege of a painless death and to burn the fear of death and pain into him. Ellie wakes up, unable to remember what happened. A man with pointed ears urgently calls her name. Relieved she is awake, she asks where Tori is, and he confirms Tori is still on the ship, which is shown burning and damaged. She insists she must go back, but the man warns she can't. He explains that Lobelia wants her safety above all else, and even if she turned back now, she'd get caught up in the danger and die. Ellie is shocked and struggles to accept this. The scene shifts back to the battle as a woman attacks fiercely, clashing swords with the man wielding the Grady switch. Flames roar around them, but the man remains calm and confident, causing the woman to wonder why he isn't losing his composure despite the fight. Flames roar around the burning ship as the two opponents face each other. One wonders if the man's confidence is baseless or if he has a plan. Knowing that even victory means no escape if the ship sinks, the man with light hair smirks, telling Lobelia to brace herself and settle the fight with the next strike, declaring the outcome obvious and mocking that the weakest dogs bark the loudest. The man summons swirling flames in his hand, preparing a powerful attack. Lobelia charges forward, shouting a fierce battle cry as she lunges at him. The man counters with a massive icy slash, calling it Frost Blade. The attack crashes down with explosive force, clashing against the flames and shaking the battlefield. Blood splatters from the man's back as Lobelia's strike lands. He grimaces but remains standing, his expression serious as he faces her head-on. Flames trailing from his arm as the battle intensifies. The man collapses to his knees, clutching his injured leg and screaming in agony. His face twists in pain as he gasps out a strained sound. A figure cloaked in dark robes raises a hand, the air swirling ominously. The injured man pleads desperately, begging for mercy and fearing further torture. The cloaked figure's expression hardens, unmoved by the pleas. A nun-like figure stumbles backward, shocked by the sudden appearance of the cloaked man. The cloaked man demands to know why the nun is here, earning a startled reaction. The injured man's leg lies on the ground, blood pooling beneath it. The realization dawns that the cloaked man used a special ability, swapping positions with someone outside. The cloaked man reflects silently, admitting he hesitated briefly, allowing Elliot to exploit the moment. The nun clutches her head, terrified and begging for salvation, explaining she was just on a boat moments ago. The cloaked man coldly curses Elliot, while the nun pleads for help, fearing the worst. The nun promises full cooperation from the Spirit Church to Arcadia if spared, revealing Elliot forced them into this situation. The cloaked man listens silently, then swiftly slashes through the nun's plea, cutting her off mid-sentence with a decisive strike. The cloaked man acknowledges that the fictional Hell's Gate could activate at any moment. Admitting he has wasted unnecessary time, He apologizes to Ars for the delay and insists they must escape as well. Gasping for breath, he grimly reflects that failing to finish off his opponent with one blow has led to this dire situation. The injured man vows to report the incident to Reinhard and promises a full-scale attack by the night order to slaughter all the demons and their followers. The cloaked man observes the situation with a calm, almost amused expression, noting the lack of remorse in his opponent. Suddenly, a figure introduces himself as Boros, the Dragon King and a direct subordinate of the arrogant magician. The injured man reacts with shock, recognizing Boros as the one supposedly defeated by Lobelia. Boros explains that his master ordered him to stay out of public view, so he had no choice but to watch quietly. He expresses irritation at the disrespect shown to his master and admits he has been itching to kill them all along. Boros assures the injured man he won't kill him, immediately allowing him to rest for now. Boros grins wickedly and ominously announces his intention to peel off the injured man's skin piece by piece. The scene ends with the Hell's Gate beginning to open, the man screaming in terror as the climax approaches. The massive Hell's Gate begins to open, chains rattling as the ominous structure looms. A figure falls rapidly through the air, gripping a smaller person tightly as debris scatters around them. The tension peaks with the word, "Climax," emblazoned above. The figure plunges into the water, breaking the surface with a splash. He gasps for air, holding the smaller person close. He reflects that if he were the original Roberia, he would have handled this with more logic, but admits he is not yet at that level. As he looks out, a ship appears on the horizon, prompting a quiet acknowledgement. On the ship, a group of people call out loudly, "Roberia!" Their faces show relief and concern. A hand, dripping with water, clenches tightly. Nearby, others work together to pull the figure from the water, while a woman embraces the smaller person he saved. High above, a winged figure descends, catching the attention of the drenched man. He questions, "Boros?" The winged man, holding the severed head of Elliot, smiles wickedly. The drenched man admits he doesn't fully trust Boros yet, but acknowledges his usefulness and resolves to stop being so cold toward him, at least a little. The battle is finally over, a bright sun shining down as relief washes over the scene. A heartfelt embrace follows, with one whispering how glad they are that the other survived. A gentle smile confirms the shared relief. Others greet the survivor warmly, voices filled with worry and joy, despite their happiness. He doubts he would have died in such a place. A woman explains that Alicia has been praying for his safety, and the survivor hesitates when asked if he revealed his name. The woman admits she told others about herself because they already knew who he truly was, even that she once fought alongside the heroic knights. She recalls the terror of seeing the Black Gate swallow the knight's ship. Fearing she would lose him, he questions if she has Reinhai, but she counters, insisting he's wrong. She confesses she couldn't imagine life without him and firmly declares her love, vowing never to give up no matter how many times he pushes her away. Her words hang in the air as she looks at him with unwavering devotion. He reflects on how Alicia has someone who truly needs her, which made him push her away, thinking he had already given up. Now, he understands the terror of losing her. With a calm resolve, he tells her to do as she pleases. She responds with a determined, tearful yes, and he affirms, "Then I'll do just that." Beneath a bright sky, they return to Arcadia without losing anyone. Despite announcing victory, no one truly celebrates. The devastated survivors tend to the wounded, clear rubble, and repair what buildings remain usable. They solemnly gather the bodies in the town square, mourning their losses. At night, they hold a quiet ceremony, lighting torches as they stand before the bodies laid out on wooden pallets. The mood is heavy with grief and reflection. He regrets leaving town back then, believing no one would have died if he had stayed. Memories of happier times flash briefly, but he knows looking back only brings regret. The survivors must now live on for those who didn't make it, a solemn vow under the starry night sky. 3 days later, a man in a cloak walks alone across a barren landscape while a woman with long hair stands gazing into the distance. Suddenly, a cheerful figure with horns waves energetically, calling out "Roberia-sama" with a bright smile. The horned woman teases him, asking if he's a dog for staying calm when his master appears. He admits she contributed a lot in the battle and reluctantly recognizes her as his subordinate. She beams, declaring this the highest honor, while he internally compares himself to a dog. The horned woman notes how the man seems close to Lady Alicia, prompting him to ask if she's teasing him. He admits he can't deny it, recalling how Alicia looks lonely when he tries to walk away and sneaks into bed beside him at night. The horned woman wonders aloud when the ceremony will be, confusing him as he questions what she means by ceremony. He struggles to understand how marriage works in this world, realizing Alicia's bold moves might have meant something serious. He asks if she's serious, while she asks what exactly he's supposed to do in a marriage. A week has passed. A young woman calls out to Roberia, urging him to hurry because Yuma-san's speech is about to start. Two children scold him for oversleeping again as they all head out together. Roberia looks tired but responds to the call. A man stands before a gathered crowd, thanking everyone for coming. He acknowledges the hard work done over the past week to rebuild the town despite the grief. He solemnly recalls how enemies took away loved ones and caused great destruction, but insists that not all is lost. As long as they live, the history of Arcadia will continue. The man continues, urging everyone to honor the will of those who came before and to take a new step forward. He declares that from now on, Arcadia will be a true home where humans and demons coexist. He announces a celebration of their rebirth, encouraging everyone to eat well, rest, and regain strength. The scene shifts to joyful townsfolk dancing, eating, and enjoying the moment. Roberia watches the festivities, reflecting on the resilience of the people and how Yuma's leadership will help the town grow stronger. The young woman from before offers freshly prepared food, inviting everyone to sit and rest together. Roberia calls her name, and she smiles warmly. Holding skewers in both hands, he agrees to join, and they sit down with the children, sharing food in peaceful harmony. The narration expresses a deep longing fulfilled, marking the completion of the main story. Boros introduces himself as one of the last survivors of the Dragon Clan. Once known as the strongest, he explains that for various reasons, he has become the most powerful subordinate of Roberia-sama. Since revealing his existence would cause trouble for Roberia-sama, he usually spends his time quietly inside a grimoire. He sits alone in a dim, cluttered room, silent and contemplative. He suddenly demands to be let back inside, angrily accusing someone of calling him out for cheating at a game and needing to reflect on it. He complains about being invited in the first place over a mere piece of paper. He calms himself, reasoning that both Roberia-sama and Lady Alicia should be asleep at this hour. He plans to suppress his presence and sneak out of the house to hide far away. As Boros attempts to leave, a young man appears and asks if someone is there. The man questions who Boros is. Boros nervously denies being suspicious and claims he is not a threat, waving his hand awkwardly. The young man, suspicious, threatens to call his master. Boros pleads for him to wait, trying to explain himself. Boros bows politely and introduces himself as Roberia-sama's friend, Ryu Dash. He explains he came from another country on a long journey to return something he borrowed. He stopped by the house but thought to leave the item in the lab since the master seemed asleep. The young man questions if Boros is really okay with leaving without saying anything after traveling so far. Boros, surprised, decides to wake the master up after all and follows the young man out. Boros refuses the invitation, fearing for his life if seen outside. He explains he was ordered to keep his presence secret, even from Lady Alicia, warning that being caught means certain death. Meanwhile, a sleepy girl clutching a teddy bear complains about the early morning fuss. The girl wonders who the newcomer is, finding her somewhat cute. Boros introduces himself as Ryu Dash, a friend of the master, but the girl is told not to gawk. Suddenly, Lady Alicia appears, scolding them for entering Roberia's lab without permission. Boros recognizes her voice immediately. Lady Alicia looks around the cluttered lab, confused as she hears voices she thought were from Jessica and Ars. She questions if she was half asleep, still trying to make sense of the situation. Boros suddenly pins Lady Alicia against the wall, wings spread wide, thrilling at the close encounter. He exclaims how amazing it is, but she demands silence, clearly flustered by the unexpected embrace. He admits to making a promise with Roberia-sama never to appear in public or interact with them, explaining why he was so desperate to stop them. Apologizing, he asks them to keep his visit a secret. With a cheerful farewell, he leaps out the window, wishing them a nice day. Suddenly, he spreads his wings and takes flight, carrying the two children. They excitedly shout about flying, while he protests being grabbed at the base of his wings. Their joy turns to panic as he loses control and crashes to the ground. He groans in pain from the fall, scolding them for endangering his life by taking him out like this. The children happily declare it was their first time flying, while he urges them to return to town quickly. The girl shyly asks if they can play a little longer, and he agrees with a bright smile. He tells them to hold on tight as they prepare for a continent tour, lifting off with the children excitedly shouting in delight. A figure with wings soars high above a barren rocky landscape under a bright sky. Two children beam with joy, their faces lit with wonder and excitement. A calm voice reflects that these kids must have spent so much time in town that the outside world feels entirely new to them, making even this desolate land appear bright and shining through their eyes. The narration shifts to the creatures inhabiting this harsh land. Bone coyotes huddle together during the day, sleeping tightly as they are nocturnal. Even asleep, They react instantly to threats by fighting or fleeing. Massive sandworms live underground. Not especially strong but advantaged in the sand. Nearby, hypno-jaguars emit a sleep-inducing scent that can drag victims to their nests to be devoured. A warning to be cautious. The winged figure asks if they should lower altitude. Noticing something is wrong, the girl, fidgeting, whimsically asks to pick flowers, which the others interpret as a bathroom break. They urge her to hold it until they return to town. But she insists. The figure points to a rock as a spot to stop, and they land there. The boy addresses the winged figure respectfully, thanking him. The figure teases the boy about the sudden formality, wondering if he's being polite just to humor them or for Jessica's sake. The boy hesitates but admits it might be so. The figure reassures them, saying it's fine and acknowledges how much they help around town, reminding them that sometimes a little fun is needed to unwind. The winged figure asks if the boy is heading back after this, and he quietly confirms. The boy reflects that Jessica will be sad, but the figure notes there are no flowers nearby. The boy admits that's not what Jessica meant by flowers, but lets it go. They walk together as the figure wonders if Jessica has been gone too long. The figure calls out for Jessica, checking if she's done where she was. He notices hypno-jaguar tracks in the sand and asks how far she went. The boy looks on with concern as they study the paw prints. The figure orders the boy to stay put while she promises to bring Jessica back. She takes off swiftly, sensing Jessica must be close since the scent is still fresh. The boy watches anxiously as she speeds away. The figure's eyes narrow in anger, calling the beasts filthy. The figure strikes one of the hypno-jaguars, then spreads her wings to shield Jessica, who is unconscious in her arms. She warns the beasts that the princess belongs to her master and forbids them from touching her. The hypno-jaguars growl and advance, but the figure stands firm in defense. The Dragon King's face cracks into a fierce smile as he declares that all of his enemies are sentenced to death. He unleashes a devastating attack called Dragon Tear, a blazing beam that tears through the ground with overwhelming force. The scene shifts to a fortified area where the Dragon King introduces himself as Boros, asking for his true name to be kept secret. He carries an unconscious girl on his back, promising to meet again somewhere. The boy responds with a hopeful smile, agreeing to keep the secret. Boros bids farewell with a calm smile, saying until next time. The boy carries the girl as Boros takes flight into the bright sky, leaving behind a peaceful atmosphere. Back inside a cluttered room, Boros sits exhausted on the floor, admitting that doing something unfamiliar has worn him out. He surveys the messy space, noting that the busy Roberia-sama hasn't had time to clean. With renewed resolve, he snaps his fingers, determined to take care of the mess as a loyal subordinate. Roberia stands confidently as the room is engulfed in swirling flames that vanish instantly, leaving everything spotless. He cheerfully announces the place is all clean. Ryu enters, surprised, and calls out to him. Roberia smiles brightly and explains he cleaned earlier. Ryu sternly reminds him not to leave the grimoire without permission. Addressing him as Roberia-sama, confused, Ryu asks about the missing materials and documents. Wondering if they were moved to another room, Roberia calmly replies, confirming the room has been tidied up. She reveals he reduced all the materials and documents to ashes. Ryu reacts with shock and fear, noting how terrifying Roberia looks at that moment. Roberia's expression remains calm but serious. The scene cuts to the destruction caused by the ashes, with a final narration stating that everything was turned to ash.